We go. Oh, I got it. Good morning, everyone. Almost afternoon here at Ignite Your Leadership. Woohoo! We're ready. I didn't realize I was right after the break, so I just put chocolate in my mouth. So we're just finishing that up. Thanks. And for those of you who don't know me, I'm going to give you a little insight. When doing Brittany's exercise, the immediate safe space is the hub green in front of Cinderella's castle at Walt Disney World. So that gives you a little insight into who I am and what I nerd out on. I'm really just like a 15-year-old boy at heart. All things Doctor Who and Marvel and Disney and Harry Potter and all that. So if anybody wants to geek out, we can chat at the break. My name is Amy Flores Young, known as Floyo, floyotravel.com. And I am here to start talking a little bit about the leadership piece of our journey here now that we've all been grounded and had a little reflection time. So a few things that came to mind to just put us in the right space for leadership is a boss says go, a leader says let's go. Leadership is an action, not a position, right? So in thinking of leadership, we think empowerment, inspiration, a change agent, the person with the vision, sharing that vision and making sure it's a shared vision. So I wanted to talk a little bit about my journey into leadership, which I had never really thought about until I was approached to be a collaborator in this book. I don't think I made a conscious choice to be a leader. I think it's just who I always was. So about 8th grade, way back, is kind of when that started, when that label, if you will, was put on me. So as you'll read in chapter 7, page 81, I was a Y rat, YMCA rat, grew up at the Y, doing all the things that YMCA kids do. And a big piece of that is wanting to be old enough to be able to volunteer, like behind the front desk and fold the towels and check the membership cards. And those were the things that like we were aspiring to as young middle schoolers. So as soon as I could, I jumped into those programs, and those programs at the YMCA are actually called the Leaders Club and Youth in Government, which are both trademarked, so we can't use those. YMCA Youth in Government. So that's where the cool kids hung out. That's where my older friends that we aspired to be hung out. So that's where I started hanging out. So like I said, I think that label of leadership just kind of got absorbed through those experiences. We were the good kids, which cracks me up thinking about what we did. And I'm like, God, we were the good kids and we got away with that. Like, I don't know what the other kids, the unsupervised kids were doing. So through that youthful journey into leadership, where we talked about creating change, kind of how to be the change that you want to see. We, of course, in youth and government, we learned how government worked. And we took over the State House for a week, which I can't, again, how did they let us do that? We literally, those microphones that you see at those podiums at the Massachusetts State House, those little old, they're like $600 each. I don't know how many we must have broken every week. So needless to say, we don't get inside the State House anymore. But back in the day we did. And we elected our own governor and our own lieutenant governor and our own senators. And we wrote our own bills and had that whole process. And it was a year-long process. And then at the end, we had a week where we were in session and, passing and not passing and vetoing and all the things. So I had a way to look at being a change agent in a very systemic way, right? Going through those hierarchial, which I'm going to say wrong, top-down ways to create change. But it's a nonprofit, the YMCA, and I was with them for almost 15 years, moved up as a senior director, very young, and learned the hard way about leadership and graceful leadership, and thinking that the leader is the director, right? The boss says go and the leader says, let's go. Even in that nonprofit world, which you think in my mindset was collaborative. We're working with community partners. We're working with the state. We work with volunteers. Everything was done by committee. Everything was done by votes and committees and feedback. So I thought, yeah, I know what collaborative leadership is. I know what leading by example is. And the more I had to sit back and reflect on this chapter in thinking of my leadership journey, it really hit me through that process how not collaborative my leadership experience was. And it was kind of like, whoa, well, that's a new identity for me. I always thought. So when I left the YMCA, I did a very short stint with our public school system during the No Child Left Behind 21st Century grant cycles. And as someone who did not come from the public schools, I came from the community collaboration side. That's why they wanted me, because it was all about community partnerships and collaborations for after school and enrichment activities for our at-risk youth in the city. So again, I was chosen for that position due to my experience in community collaboration. And I thought, again, when I was approached to be a partner in this book, of course I understand collaborative relationship. Then we went through those exercises to sit and reflect on what our experience was. And again, I was like, wow, that really wasn't that collaborative. It was still a top-down experience. When we were at the YMCA, we had the board, we had our executives, and as much as we were bringing in partnership, we had goals and visions that needed to be met from up top. Those goals and visions and plans were not determined by those partnerships. Very similar, I'm sure you could, a federal grant in a public school was very similar. Yes, it was a collaborative program, but I was leading those community partners, how do I say it, the public school way, not taking their strengths and their offers. It was taking their strengths and making it fit what we needed versus what we thought we needed, should I say. Because if anybody was around during the No Child Left Behind period, it didn't work. There were many children left behind. So we always left and said, no child left behind except mine. So then after that brief cycle with the public school system, I transitioned into a nonprofit role with a disability organization because I had my daughter, who's now 23, and she is severely disabled. So again, no child left behind except mine. So I moved all of that passion and change and frustration, because it was at that point, that transition was all out of frustration because change wasn't happening. Change took too long. Well, you know, systems take time, and they say it takes 5 generations for real systemic change to happen. We don't have time for that. So I think that reflection and understanding that, again, well, that's not how we do it. That's not how the state works. That's not how we're going to get things done. And it was committee meeting after committee meeting, after task force, after gather data, talk about the data. Nobody ever did anything with the freaking data, you know. So we're going to, now the data is old, so now we have to get more data and have another meeting. So again, very frustrated. The blessing and the curse of having my child with a disability was it shed light on a whole new priority of issues. So I was able to take that passion and frustration, and now this is it. We're going to create some real change because I'm going to run the program. I'm going to be in an executive leadership role at this agency. So as my leadership roles changed, so did my perception of what leadership was. Again, and I still at this time, we're about 10, 12 years ago, I still think we're in collaborative leadership and that I'm the unicorn of leadership, right? Bringing everyone, not the guy in the back, you know, with the horses in front, telling them where to go, but that I'm the leader in the front, pulling everybody along with me. I think, yes, I got this leadership crap down. I've been doing this for 25 years now. I know leadership. And then I was asked to reflect on it a little bit more because they said, you know, leadership, you should be in this book. And even as all of those leadership positions were bigger, you know, national, state level, with the YMCA, I was a national trainer. So again, I was working at the big picture level, trying to create change. And as all of those leadership positions, all of those career changes I made became a kind of down the funnel. You know, it was national to state to local. And now I'm at the disability agency, which is local within local, very geographic to just like that inner neighborhood circle. So as I'm making all these changes, I don't think I ever realized until I sat down to do this project, again, how hierarchical those relationships were. There was always, again, it was just always top down. And it was a huge shift for me to step out of those leadership career choices and realize that the only true way to make change is through the intimate, smaller relationships, those smaller ripples. And that's why I do what I do now, is I had to step completely out of it. I am not an entrepreneur. I am not I mean, I am a small business owner, but that is not, I never had that. I was always going to be in the system, working to improve the system type person. I never thought I would be on my own. And for those of us in the room who own our own businesses, I think you know what I mean, like on our own. We make it or break it. And we have wonderful supports like Ladies Power Lunch and other communities to help us understand and have that safety net with each other. But, you know, when the revenue doesn't come in and the bills don't get paid, that's your credit score. That's your credit score, and that's your line of credit not being written off on a business, you know, on a large scale business loss. So it was so impactful to have this opportunity to sit and reflect on this and really realize that at my best from those leadership positions to this position, where my vision in my business is to uphold and fiercely hold the intention of my client's vision. I build out retreats and events for thought leaders and coaches and consultants so they can do their best. So I'm not the leader in that. They are the leader. I hold the space so they can be fully present in their leadership. And that's, like I said, now I truly understand what collaborative leadership and collaborative relationship and heterarchy, which I didn't even know was a word until they put it in the, I'm obviously not as well read as I thought I was when I was like, what was that again? Google, what is that word? And I read the definition of it. And when I read that definition, we're about 6 months ago now, that's, like I said, my whole worldview and understanding of leadership was shook to its core. Again, I thought I've always been in nonprofit. I know what collaboration is. So I urge you, while we're here today and in your future, building out your businesses, to let your view be shook and truly understand, as we always say, and I just came off another event last week with a very similar vibe, shall I say, in truly, truly understanding and swallowing and being grounded in, it is the female, feminine energy, small business owner. When I say small business, that's still upwards of 10, 20, $30 million businesses. It is that female, feminine, collaborative leadership that is going to change society, change what the word business means, change what the world sees as a relationship. And it is needed now more than ever. And I feel the change. And I hope you feel the change as well as we are here.